This week, the state Supreme Court ruled that voters do not get to vote on the so-called millionaires tax through a referendum. That's because the legislation is tied to a necessity clause, essentially an emergency, saying the revenue from the tax supports the government. Therefore, the Constitution says people don't get a vote through a referendum process. Tonight, we are hearing from Senator Jamie Peterson, the primary architect of the millionaire tax. He says he is pleased with that ruling. He also made news recently over leaked emails obtained by Center Square showing he closely worked with the state attorney general's office to craft the tax to provoke a legal challenge to overturn a 93-year-old rule in the Constitution that considers income to be property. Here are portions of my interview with Peterson. It shows internal emails between you and the state attorney general's office. And the reason why the necessity clause or so-called emergency clause was put in there was because you got advice from them to put that in the bill that you crafted in order to bypass the referendum. You write right here, I'd like to force the Washington State Supreme Court to reconsider its case law that considers income to be property. Do you have any other suggestions about how to bolster the argument that this would be an excise tax and not a property tax? That came from you. So I'm just asking, like, why not make this into like a vote for the constitutional amendment? Why not go that way rather than trying to force the state Supreme Court to reconsider this law?
Do you know, Hannah, between 1973 and 2022, Republican legislatures across the country passed more than 1,500 bills trying to get the U.S. Supreme Court to reconsider its decision in Roe v. Wade. It is absolutely a normal part of the legislative process and of the balance of powers, the sort of system of checks and balances.
We have former AG Rob McKenna, and this is what he told us, right? He says it is not the Attorney General's role to explain to legislators how to violate the Constitution. He's talking about directly your email with one of the members of the Attorney General's office. How do you respond to the thought that you use taxpayer-funded executive lawyers to help get you around taxpayer protections here?
Wow. This is I believe that this was an unconstitutional decision, right? That the Culleton decision in 1933 is wrongly decided. As I said to you before, it is absolutely the regular role of the legislative branch, not just to roll over when there's a bad decision, but to push back to try to make good policy that is consistent with our understanding of the Constitution. So that's the only, and I'd be surprised if you had anybody who wants legislators to draft bills without advice from lawyers, right?
Well, you have lawyers in your office. I even have a senator, former state senator Phil Talmadge, says that he wouldn't have done that. He feels that it was inappropriate conversation to have that kind of way to bypass the Constitution. That's what Phil Talmadge is saying. He's a former Democrat.
Well, I can't speak to Justice Talmadge's motivations or who's paying him to say what these days, but I will just say that it is absolutely normal for us to seek the advice of lawyers as we draft bills.
You said that they followed the state constitution when they talked about the referendum and they ruled on that. But here, you actually want them to go against the Constitution that's written right.
No. There is nothing in the Constitution about income taxes.
People have a right to their property and that income is property, as you said.
It says that property taxes cannot exceed 1%.
Right.
And that property taxes have to be applied uniformly across a class of property.
Exactly, which the millionaire tax is not that.
The millionaire tax is, in my opinion, completely consistent with that, because it's not a tax on owning something, it's a tax on doing something. It's a tax on earning your income. It's not different from the business and occupations tax. It's not different from the capital gains tax.
So Peterson says voters will still get to weigh in on the millionaire's tax if an initiative process is launched. In that case, he is confident the Washingtonians will vote in favor of the tax. Tomorrow, we will air more of our interview of why he believes the millionaire tax is not causing the rich to leave the state and where he stands overall on a universal income tax on all Washingtonians.